Hell everyone, welcome to my channel Alpha Male. Not every gift is a sign of love. Some gifts arrive with hidden strings attached. Nothing obvious at first, nothing you notice in the moment, but something quietly buried underneath the surface. And if you fail to recognize it early, you can slowly walk into a situation that begins taking away your freedom, your confidence, and your control. It never starts like a problem. It starts small. She gives you something, helps you out, supports you, or does something that appears generous. Naturally, you accept it without overthinking. Why wouldn't you? It looks thoughtful. It feels caring. But as time passes, the dynamic begins to shift. Expectations start appearing. Pressure slowly builds. You begin feeling like you owe something back, even though no agreement was ever made. And that's exactly where the trap begins, because now it's no longer just a gift. It becomes leverage. Most men don't recognize this until the situation has already gone too far. In the beginning, they accept everything without questioning the motive behind it. They assume every gesture comes from pure intention. And because of that, they place themselves in situations where control slowly slips away without them even noticing. Now understand this clearly. This is not about rejecting kindness. This is about recognizing intention. There is a major difference between a sincere gift and a strategic one. One is given freely, the other is given with a hidden objective. And if you cannot tell the difference, manipulation can happen without you even realizing it. In this video, I'm going to break down 5 types of gifts you should be cautious about accepting from any woman. Not because every woman is the same, but because certain behavioral patterns repeat themselves. And if you don't recognize those patterns, you can easily fall into them. These things are rarely obvious. They are subtle. They appear normal on the surface, but they can completely shift your position if you are unaware. So pay close attention, because once you understand this, you will never look at gifts the same way again. The first type of gift you need to watch carefully is the gift that comes with hidden conditions. At first, it doesn't feel conditional. She helps you, supports you during a difficult moment, or gives you something meaningful, and everything seems completely normal. There's no pressure, no demand, and no discussion attached to it. It simply feels like kindness. But the condition reveals itself later. The moment she wants something from you, suddenly phrases begin appearing like, "Remember everything I did for you?" Or, "I was there when nobody else helped you." Or, "After all I've done, you can't do this one thing for me?" The moment that happens, it stops being a gift. It becomes a transaction you never agreed to. This is how manipulation usually works. It rarely starts with negativity. It starts with something positive, something that lowers your guard. You accept it because it feels harmless. But once you accept it, an invisible sense of obligation is created, even if nobody openly stated it. And that obligation slowly turns into control. Now your decisions begin changing. You feel pressure to respond, to return the favor, to adjust your behavior based on what she previously gave you. Even when her request conflicts with your standards or your values, you hesitate because part of you feels indebted. That is the trap. And the dangerous part is that the cycle repeats itself. The more you accept, the stronger the expectations become. Every favor adds another layer of pressure. Every gesture becomes something that can later be referenced against you. Eventually, your decisions stop being based on what you truly want. Instead, they become based on guilt and obligation. That is how men slowly lose control without realizing it. The important thing to understand is this: a genuine gift never comes back as emotional pressure. A real gift is not repeatedly used as a reminder. A real gift does not create debt. So stop paying attention only to what is being offered. Pay attention to what follows afterward. Because the moment a gift is used to influence your behavior, it was never truly a gift to begin with. The second type of gift you should be careful about is the expensive gift that comes too early. Timing matters when you barely know someone and suddenly there are large gestures, costly items, or serious financial support. You need to pause and think carefully. At that stage, the connection is not supposed to be that deep yet. But it feels good. It appears generous. It can even convince you that you've found someone who genuinely values you. And that is exactly why it becomes dangerous. Instead of allowing the relationship to develop naturally over time, everything suddenly accelerates too fast. The balance disappears before it even has a chance to form. One person begins investing far beyond what the situation realistically requires, and that immediately creates emotional pressure. You begin asking yourself questions like, how am I supposed to match this? Or, what does she expect from me now? Even if she never says anything directly, the pressure still exists. And once that pressure exists, your choices are no longer completely free. They become influenced. This is how emotional positioning works. By giving something highly valuable too early, she changes the entire dynamic. You no longer feel equal. You feel like you've received something significant, and that feeling alone can alter your behavior. You may begin tolerating behavior you normally wouldn't accept. You may stay in unhealthy situations longer than you should. You may overlook obvious red flags because you don't want to appear ungrateful. That's how control quietly begins. Another problem with early expensive gifts is that they create a false sense of emotional depth. The gesture is big, so the connection feels deeper than it actually is. But real connection is not built through sudden intensity. It is built slowly through consistency, trust, and time. When someone skips that natural process, imbalance usually follows. So remember this rule. If something feels excessive too early, step back and evaluate the situation carefully. You don't need to reject kindness, but you do need to understand timing. Because when value is introduced before real connection exists, the foundation becomes unstable. And when the foundation is unstable, everything built on top of it becomes unstable too. The third type of gift you must be cautious about is the gift used to silence you. At first, nothing seems wrong. She supports you, gives you something meaningful, or helps you in ways that appear sincere. Everything feels positive. But the moment you express discomfort, set a boundary, or speak up about an issue, the dynamic changes. Instead of discussing the actual problem, she immediately redirects the conversation toward what she has done for you. After everything I've given you, this is how you respond. After all I've done, you still have a problem with this? The moment that happens, the gift becomes a weapon. Now your voice is no longer free. Instead of addressing the issue itself, you are pushed into feeling guilty simply for expressing yourself. The conversation stops being about the problem and becomes about what you supposedly owe. That is how silence is created. You begin holding things back. You stop expressing concerns openly. You avoid difficult conversations because you already know the response you're going to get. And over time, that destroys your confidence. You start questioning yourself. You begin wondering whether speaking up makes you selfish or ungrateful, even when your concerns are completely valid. Little by little, your position weakens because you are no longer communicating honestly. You are simply adjusting your behavior to avoid emotional backlash. And once you reach that point, the relationship becomes one-sided. Understand this clearly. No gift should ever cost you your voice. No gift should ever make you afraid to speak honestly. No gift should ever be used to make your opinions feel invalid. Because the moment a gift is used to silence you, it stops being generosity and becomes leverage. So pay attention to recurring patterns. If every disagreement somehow circles back to what you received, that is not appreciation. That is control. And once control replaces healthy communication, the relationship is no longer healthy. The fourth type of gift you need to be careful with is the gift that creates dependence. This one is especially dangerous because it feels positive in the beginning. She helps you financially. She solves problems for you. She provides opportunities, connections, or support in areas you normally handle yourself. At first, it feels comforting. It feels like you finally have someone reliable in your corner. But over time, the dynamic slowly changes. You begin relying on it. You become comfortable. You stop pushing yourself with the same level of intensity. Little by little, your independence starts fading. And that is exactly where the danger begins. Because once you depend on something, you become vulnerable to losing it. And when another person knows you depend on them, the power dynamic shifts automatically. Suddenly, their influence over your decisions grows, even if they never openly say it. During disagreements, subtle reminders begin appearing. If it wasn't for me, don't forget who helped you. You know everything I've done for you. Even if those words are never spoken directly, the awareness still exists in your mind. You feel it. And because you feel it, your behavior changes. You hesitate to leave situations that are unhealthy. You hesitate to stand firm on your boundaries. You hesitate to make choices that could disrupt the support you've become dependent on. That is how control expands. Another major problem is that dependence changes your mindset entirely. Instead of thinking like a man building his own future, you begin thinking like someone protecting what has already been provided for him. And that shift weakens ambition, discipline, and drive over time. Now understand this clearly. Support is healthy, but dependence is dangerous. A strong relationship should encourage your growth, not replace your effort. It should never remove your responsibilities or make you feel incapable of functioning without it. So remember this rule. Never accept anything that slowly makes you dependent. Because the moment dependence begins, control starts shifting away from you. The fifth type of gift you should be extremely careful with is the gift that weakens you. This one is subtle because it doesn't look controlling at all. It feels easy, comfortable, convenient. That's why most men completely miss it. She makes life smoother for you. She solves problems before you even notice them. She removes obstacles from your path. She steps in so you don't have to struggle, push yourself, or handle difficult situations on your own. In the beginning, it feels supportive. It feels relaxing. But over time, something changes inside you. You stop doing certain things for yourself. Your sharpness begins fading. Your discipline weakens. Your drive decreases because life no longer demands the same effort from you. And that is where the danger exists. Not because she is necessarily doing anything wrong, but because comfort is slowly reducing your strength. You begin losing your edge. Your focus drops. Your mentality shifts. You become a version of yourself that prioritizes ease over growth. And once that happens, every area of your life begins feeling the impact. Understand this clearly. Growth is built through responsibility, pressure, and effort. Strength develops through solving your own problems and handling your own challenges. When those experiences are constantly removed, even with good intentions, you slowly lose the very process that makes you stronger. And the hardest part about this type of comfort is that it feels good. It feels safe. It feels convenient. But what feels comfortable in the moment can slowly weaken you over time. So the rule is simple. Never accept anything that replaces your effort completely. Never allow comfort to destroy your discipline. Because once discipline disappears, you don't just lose control, you lose yourself. At this point, the pattern should be obvious. The issue is not the gift itself. The issue is what the gift eventually turns into. Something that appears positive at the beginning can slowly become something that limits your freedom if you fail to pay attention. And this is where most men make mistakes. They focus only on what they gain immediately. They never think about the long-term consequences. That is why they walk into situations that gradually change their position without realizing it. You need to start thinking differently. Instead of asking, what am I receiving right now? Start asking, what does this eventually lead to? That single question changes everything. If a gift creates pressure, it is not harmless. If it creates expectation, it is not neutral. If it changes your behavior, your independence, or your decision-making, then it is no longer just a gift. It becomes influence. And you also need to understand that patterns matter more than isolated moments. Not every situation is toxic. Not every woman is trying to manipulate you. But when the same behaviors repeatedly appear over time, you need to pay attention because repeated patterns reveal direction. And direction tells you exactly where things are heading. You should also pay attention to how you feel after accepting something. If you still feel free, respected, and emotionally balanced, it is probably genuine. But if you feel pressure, guilt, hesitation, or emotional weight, something is wrong. That feeling is not random. It is a warning sign. Ignoring those signals is what creates serious problems later. So the goal is not to reject everything. The goal is to understand exactly what you are accepting into your life. Because once you recognize these patterns, you stop walking blindly into situations that slowly reduce your control. And that awareness changes everything. Now that you understand what to avoid, the next step is learning how to move correctly. Because this is not about becoming cold or closed off. It is about becoming aware and intentional. The first thing you need to do is observe before accepting anything. Not every offer requires an immediate response. Take a moment. Study the timing, the pattern, and the possible outcome. Ask yourself what accepting it could eventually create, not just what it gives you today. That pause alone protects your position. The second thing is maintaining your independence at all times. No matter what support you receive, your life should still move forward based on your own effort, discipline, and direction. Your responsibilities should remain yours. Your goals should remain yours. Because the moment someone replaces your effort, your position begins weakening. Another important step is keeping your standards clear. If something comes attached with pressure, guilt, or conditions, recognize it immediately. You don't need endless explanations or emotional debates. You simply need clarity about what you accept and what you refuse. Clarity removes confusion. You also need consistency in your behavior. Never change your standards simply because someone has given you something. The moment your choices begin coming from obligation instead of genuine desire, control starts slipping away from you. Consistency protects your freedom. And finally, value your own effort above everything else. What you build yourself always carries more strength than what is simply handed to you. When you rely on your own discipline, your own work ethic, and your own decisions, you become much harder to manipulate. That is what creates stability. So keep the focus simple. Stay aware, stay independent, stay disciplined. Because when you move through life with that mindset, no situation can quietly take control over you. And that is what separates a man who becomes trapped from a man who stays free. This is the part most men completely overlook. These situations rarely destroy you overnight. They don't begin with obvious warning signs. That's what makes them dangerous. Everything starts small. A simple favor, a thoughtful gesture, something that seems harmless and normal. You accept it casually because there's no immediate pressure attached to it. In fact, it may even feel like life is finally going in your favor. But slowly, the pattern develops. What once felt optional begins feeling expected. What once felt supportive begins influencing your decisions. The shift happens gradually, not suddenly. And because it happens little by little, you barely notice yourself adapting. You compromise here and there. You overlook small things. You adjust your behavior in ways that seem insignificant at the time. Until eventually, one day you realize your position has changed completely. You are no longer making decisions freely. You are making decisions based on what you might lose. You are thinking about obligations, comfort, support, or emotional pressure instead of what is truly best for you. And by that point, stepping away becomes difficult because now there is something attached, something influencing your choices. That is why awareness must happen early. You cannot wait until the situation becomes obvious. By then, the pattern is already established and you've already adapted to it emotionally. Escaping it becomes far harder than avoiding it from the beginning. So remember this rule. Pay attention early. Focus on patterns, not isolated moments. Observe how things evolve over time because what appears harmless in the beginning can eventually shape your entire direction. And once that control becomes established, removing it is never easy. At the end of the day, everything comes down to one simple truth. Not everything that looks good for you is actually good for you. That is where many men fail. They see something positive on the surface and immediately accept it without considering the long-term outcome. They focus only on temporary benefits instead of future consequences. And that is how control is lost. Because control is rarely taken all at once. It is usually surrendered little by little through small decisions, small compromises, and small moments of emotional pressure. One acceptance leads to another. One compromise leads to another. And eventually, your choices stop feeling fully yours. That is the real danger. It is never just about the gift itself. It is about what that gift creates over time. If something introduces pressure, the pressure will grow. If something creates dependence, the dependence will deepen. If something weakens your discipline, every area of your life will eventually feel the effect. So think ahead. Look beyond appearances. Be honest with yourself about what you are allowing into your life. This is not about rejecting kindness or avoiding connection. It is about protecting your position. Because once your position is lost, rebuilding it becomes difficult. Respect changes, control shifts, stability disappears. That is why awareness matters from the very beginning. Don't wait until things become painful before you start paying attention. Stay aware early so you never enter situations that quietly limit your freedom over time. The rule is simple. If something comes with pressure, question it. If something creates obligation, step back. If something affects your independence, be careful. Because once independence begins disappearing, everything else eventually follows. So move through life with clarity. Accept what is genuine, reject what comes with hidden weight, and always remain in control of your own direction. Because in the end, what you allow into your life will eventually determine what controls your life. Now drop your thoughts in the comments. And if this opened your eyes, subscribe for more. vidIQ.